Hi everyone, this is Bibi Lorenzetti. I'm touching base with you all from Mysore, India. And I am wanting to share a little bit more about what kind of practice to do for healing anorexia or eating disorders through the practice of Ashtanga Yoga. A lot of you reached out asking for a sequence or asking how to practice in a way that will heal. This is a really good question. Practice needs to be done in a very specific kind of way in order for it to be used as a tool to heal. The practice of Ashtanga is a very rigorous practice, which requires a lot of discipline, and it's very structured. So if not used properly and if not taught properly, it can actually become like a tool that's used to establish yourself more and more into the disease of an anorexic mind. So it's good to find a teacher that is compassionate and that is not as strict, because as a person that is suffering from an eating disorder, you already are very strict with yourself, and you request a lot out of yourself. So it's important to have an external guide that is compassionate to you and asks of you to pay close attention in practice to the quality of your breath and to the attention that you put in being present moment to moment. The tendency is to want to kind of move through really fast, but you want to resist that, right? So today I'm going to share with you a few things that I've found really necessary in order to heal and come out the other side in my own journey. So number one is the breath, right? So the Ashtanga Yoga is the yoga of the 8 limbs, right? We begin with asana, and we add to asana the Trishtana method, which is drishti, pranayama, and bandha. So the most important part of the asana practice is that we are breathing in a way that is conscious and that is supporting the asana, right? If we're breathing correctly, we are helping our nervous system to settle, right? And when the nervous system settles, then we're able to be present in the moment. So a lot of the practice of Ashtanga Yoga is stimulating the sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight system, right? We're generating heat, we're moving fluidly from one place to another, so it actually enforces stress, right? It stresses us so that whenever we come to rest, it purposefully stresses us so that when we come to rest at the end of practice, we can fully release, and our nervous system can let go, and we can find ourselves giving into a state of full release, of full relaxation, where this nervous system calms down. And that in itself is really healing. However, there are a few things that we can tweak so that the breath during the practice can be more encouraging or more stimulating of the parasympathetic nervous system. So what I did in my own practice for a long time, and what I will sometimes encourage my students that come to me telling me that they are suffering from an eating disorder, because I always respect the space, and even though I may think someone has an eating disorder, I always wait for the person to come to me. So whenever that person comes to me, I will encourage them to stretch out the breath. So it's still an ujjayi breath, but there's more of an awareness in its length. So it will be something like this. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. So, as you can tell, there is a longer pause, there's more of an extension of the breath. This allows for our nervous system to calm down, right? It allows for us to not want to rush through the practice, but rather be really present with the struggle of it in the moment, right? And also it allows for a little bit less heat to be generated, right? Oftentimes I will also ask that the Ujjayi breath that it is not an Ujjayi breath, so there's not so much constriction in the throat. There's still an engagement of the bandha, so the breath is still supported by the lifting of the pelvic floor, by the drawing in of the lower abdomen, but there's not so much effort in it being forced to the back of the throat. Just so also that is another way of not having the breath be so fiery, be so heat stimulating, right? Oftentimes when you're suffering from an eating disorder, there tends to be too much internal heat, so you wanna calm that down. So by stretching and lengthening the breath through the practice, you're allowing for less heat to be generated, right? And if this rhythm is not comfortable for you, then you can go at a shorter rhythm. But you wanna even just try to sit before your practice and try to breathe at that rhythm, right? Try to find that rhythm. And when you're practicing, your movements are gonna have to be a little bit longer, right? A little bit, taking a little bit more time to do them. And we'll look at that together when we step on the mat out there. So that's number one. Sorry, India's getting to me, the pollution, going back and forth to the city. Okay, so number one, pranayama. Number two, asana. So in Qigong, there is a rule that you do about 70 to 80% effort. So we want to apply that to the practice as well, right? You want to ask a little bit less of yourself. So you let yourself find a little ease in each asana. You don't push yourself to the limit. You try to find a place in your practice where you can be at ease and steady in your breath without trying too hard, right? Again, the fire that's generated through trying hard, we don't want that, because that's what the anorexic mind wants to do all the time. It wants to try really extra hard. So we want to try to counter that, but by training it on our mat to ask a little less of ourselves, right? So when you're in an asana, try not to find that trembling place, but try to find a little bit of softness and nourishment in each posture, right? So my Trikonasana will have like a little bit of a softer extension to it. Your flow from one posture to another might have a little bit of a knee down. So try to find areas and ways that you can soften the action of practice. Number three is your drishti, where you're putting your attention when you're practicing. So continuing to really committing to being present in the moment while you're practicing. So if the asana requires that you look at your thumb, that's where you're going to be looking for 5 breaths. If the asana requires that you're looking at the tip of the nose, that's where you're going to be looking for 5 breaths. So you continue to do that, and when you lose yourself, you come back to it and you begin again, right? Over and over and over and over again. And why is this so important? Because bringing the anorexic mind into control means that you have to continuously put effort into bringing it back to the moment. It tends to want to go into a place of judgment, into a place of guilt, into a place of remorse. And so we have to continuously train it to bring it back to the moment. bring it back to the moment, right? If you're in the room and you're comparing yourself to other bodies, you're comparing your practice to other people, you want to train that mind to come back to the drishti, come back to the present moment, come back to that extension of the breath. So the more you can practice that on the mat, the easier it will be whenever it's a meal time to be really present, right? You sit down, you hold your food, you take 5 deep breaths to connect to your belly, to connect to your digestive system. Perhaps you have a prayer, and I'll make another video about that. You have a prayer that you do when you sit down with your food. You become one with it, and then you begin the act of eating. And your drishti is that you keep your focus on your food, on what you're eating, that you chew your food so that your digestive enzymes begin to digesting. So when the food goes down, it's been assimilated. Their digestive fire is doing its work, and there's no guilt to be felt afterwards, because you'll know when your body is full and it doesn't need any more nutrition. And before you get to that place, you might have to try, it'll be a trial and error process for a long time, but the more you can practice extending that breath, being present to it, focusing on your drishti, putting a little bit of softness in your asana, the more you can begin to practice that off the mat, right? So all of a sudden your asana is you're eating. All of a sudden your breath is, am I chewing and breathing? All of a sudden your drishti is on the food, on remembering that you have a digestive fire. And after eating, your asana is being, existing, sitting, standing, whatever you choose to do after eating. You are a conscious being that is digesting. And any thoughts that are not that, you will want to try to bring it back to the breath, bring your drishti back to yourself, and have a mantra perhaps that calms yourself down. Right? I am okay, I am digesting, everything is good, right? So whatever thoughts your anorexic mind wants to create, you bring it back to the breath and you focus on your mantra, whatever it might be. I am digesting, I am worth it, I am okay, whatever you choose it to be. Something that's nourishing, that feels good, that's soft, that's compassionate. And just have a little patience. When you begin to put the effort of being this way to yourself, it'll take months, it'll maybe take years, but you've planted the seed. And therefore, over time, just like when you learn a new asana, sometimes it comes right away, sometimes it takes a week, a few weeks, a month, a year. It's a process, right? And so whenever you're ready, your nervous system will react to it. So those are 3 things that I find really important in your practice. Your breath, the way that you use your breath, the asana, the way that you do the asana with a little bit less effort, more ease, the way that you place your gaze, your drishti, and then bandhas, right? So bandhas is the engagement, which also keeps you present in the moment. So holding yourself from within. And I like this concept of holding yourself from within because it's a sense of like, I am supported by myself. I am holding, I am nourishing, I am here for me. And so the more you can begin to practice that physically, that inner holding, the more you can find that resilience and that holding yourself, bracing yourself whenever there's thoughts that are throwing you off your seat, off your comfort zone. You hold yourself, right? You hold space by yourself. You become strong within yourself. And you prevent yourself from doing harm to yourself. So in asana, bandhas prevent injury, but when you're holding yourself in life, you're preventing himsa, right? You're preventing harming. So ahimsa is non-harming yourself. So by bracing, by holding, by supporting yourself, you're essentially creating non-harmfulness. You're established in ahimsa. So these are some concepts that I'd like for you to play around as you practice, and be really aware of it. Be your own good teacher, and if you have a teacher, then you can propose this plan to them, or perhaps they already know that this is what you should do, or perhaps you keep it to yourself and you practice it for yourself. So in terms of the asana practice, I'm going to do a next video about that. I suggest that you take these longer breaths. Perhaps you can take 8 breaths in each pose. I suggest that you don't do jump backs when you come to seated, again for the purpose of not generating as much heat. And if you choose to do your practice regularly, that is fine too, but I want you to be really aware that to practice ahimsa in that sense, if you're putting energy and effort in your practice, you need to step off the mat and refuel yourself. So you're not doing the practice to burn yourself out and to deepen and harden that seed of anorexic mind, but you're using the practice to soften that seed and to eventually burn it, right? So be really honest with yourself. Why are you practicing? What do you want to get out of practice? If the intention is to maintain a skinny body and to reinforce your fears, then you need to revisit that, and you need to reset the intention, and you need to come to the mat with a different intention. And the way you do that is that you make a new beginning. You stretch your breath, you don't jump back, you step back, you do something that is different. So you're kind of rewiring the conversation. Okay? So I hope this was helpful to you. I'll make a few more short videos about activities that you can do aside from the yoga practice, and I'll also make a video on a softer, more extended practice. Thank you for watching, and again, please follow me on Instagram, bb.lorenzetti, and sign up to my newsletter at bblorenzetti.com. I am running 2 retreats this year, one in Costa Rica coming up in the next few weeks, March 29th to April 5th, and then I'm doing one in Portugal, June 30th to July 7th, and I still have some spots left in both, so I hope that you can join me on one of the trips. I would love to support you and hold space for you on a journey together.